high net worth individuals are often targeted for their wealth and high profile status. In such a scenario, risk governance frameworks plays a crucial role. I have been joined by Rohit Karnatak, Vice President India at Pinkerton, India, who will be sharing his views in terms of the threats that high net worth individuals face and the role of risk governance frameworks to mitigate those threats. Welcome, Rohit, to this conversation. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Ashwini. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to interact with you and put our perspective regards this.
So, absolutely. Look forward, Rohit. Now,
sure.
Before we start off the conversation and try to get insights into the attacks
sure.
on high net worth individuals, now what is the significance or the essence of having a risk governance framework in today's environment?
Sure, Ashwini. See, I think the risk governance is a critical aspect of our operations at Pinkerton. I think as a leader in today's business environment, I believe that all the utmost importance of our risk governance ensures that, we are prepared and resilient to face the uncertainties of the future, right? And I think the entire idea is the resilience, right? So I'll give you one quick example, of the risk governance approach, and that's how it changes, the pandemic that happened just a few years behind us. Because we had a risk governance structure in place, we were immediately able to mitigate and we were able to continue delivering for our clients while most of the other organizations really struggled to be able to deliver when the physical office space was not available. But because we could understand and had a risk governance framework in place, we were able to continue without disruption services to all our clients. Actually, at Pinkerton, the risk governance goes beyond, just about the negative outcomes, right? So it's not just about covering risk. When I talk about the pandemic, I'm talking about a negative event. It is also about involves turning your risks into opportunities. And a lot of companies who had the right framework were able to convert those into opportunities. So I see risk governance as a strategic tool for an informed decision making and driving growth, building a resilient organization. It's all about creating a culture, where everyone becomes a risk manager contributing to the overall security and ground. And I think the entire approach is to address the situation proactively and then build up the strategies to mitigate it. And I think that's where it works. If I talk about today's business environment specifically, the organizations that face various risks can impact their operations and reputation, right? Effective risk governance starts with a proactive, identification and assessment, and thereby staying ahead of the potential risks the organizations and better equipped to respond to it swiftly and effectively. And furthermore, the risk governance requires a robust internal framework and a control environment. And what it does for you is that, you have clearly identified roles and responsibilities of people, right? You do regular audits. You have effective communication patterns or communication channels, if I may call it. And this fosters the culture of risk awareness, right? Now, if you go back again on today's scenario, the risk governance basically takes you from that factor that, it really prepares you for that. No one knew what happened 3 weeks ago. Very unfortunate, but, it had significantly changed the landscape of risk governance, right? These conflicts have implications, which have global connotations, right, for organizations, right? It impacts your business continuity. It impacts your asset security. It impacts your global economic trends. And all of that impacts the organization, right? There are sanctions. There are supply chain disruption. There's a risk of global market contagion. So to address all of these, issues, if you have a right risk governance framework in place, you will be able to have a comprehensive approach and a guidance that will be able to, anticipate these potential threats and mitigate them as we move ahead as well.
So very interesting. You've covered some key points here, Rohit. One, you spoke about the resiliency piece, which is an ongoing process, and also look at the opportunities that emerge,
out of
these disruptions that are happening across. Speaking specifically of high net worth individuals, how does a risk governance framework, help them? What are the factors or areas that you look into?
So I think, Ashwini, a risk governance framework plays if I may say, a pivotal role in safeguarding the high net worth individuals, particularly in the realms of their physical, personal, and travel security. Right. So if I take a step back and say, when do we say who are the HNI, right? The HNI or the high net worth individuals are those people who are key assets to an organization,
Right.
who could be the key decision makers, who could be the people that may be driving the organizations. Any impact to them may subsequently impact the organizations.
Organization, right.
If we are talking about a publicly listed company, it may erode shareholder value. It may impact anything that may happen to that high net worth individual. And to be honest with you, some of the high net worth individuals are soft targets as well.
Right.
So from that perspective, in this increased era of global mobility, every organization wants to be a global organization.
Right.
They don't want to refrain themselves to one particular region, right? This global mobility leads to travel security, and it becomes a significant concern for the high net worth individuals. The travel patterns of these high net worth individuals is often involving high risk areas, because they are the ones who are going to these high risk areas to explore business opportunities, right? And therefore their entire travel needs a bespoke specialist strategy. The increased interconnectedness of our lives, about the new challenge, particularly the realm of information theft,
Right.
which then can lead to physical security breaches, right? So it's a wholesome approach. It's
Right,
not about
right.
protecting that high net worth individual from a physical attack.
Right.
It is also about protecting them and their reputation, right? So if I give you an example to make it more clearer to our audience, in 2023, we witnessed a lot of unforeseen disruptions travel due to severe weather conditions and the political unrest.
Right.
It just erupted all of a sudden. By having a comprehensive risk governance framework in place, we were able to proactively identify these potential disruptions and adjust the security measures accordingly, and ensure safety of our high net worth individual clients that we were working with, and while they were traveling. Additionally, if you look at it from a successful risk governance, requires a strategic partnership,
Right.
and a collaboration with relevant external stakeholders, right? So when I say external stakeholders, a high net worth individual may have their own layer of protectiveness, right? But for example, when they engage with us, right, what we give them is the leveraging of our extensive global intelligence network. We are able to provide them timely and accurate information about any perceived risk that may be coming. And regarding entire change of the geopolitical landscape that we were just talking about, the emerging risks and the potential security threats becomes very, very vital.
Right.
This
True.
collaborative approach ensures that our clients receive the most up-to-date, accurate intelligence and make their decisions about their personal security. And that's very, very important, to have that intelligence, to be able to have their close protection team have a proactive approach, right? So maybe they have their own close protection team, they are not using us, but these external inputs that we can provide to their team, it really works. So for example, in India, when we are protecting families and their assets as well for high net worth individuals, some of them may have their own close circuit team, but they are still utilizing us to give that intelligence, right? Because if their team is equipped with intelligence proactively, it really helps them to plan everything better. So this complex risk landscape necessitates the robust risk governance framework that not only identifies and assesses these risks, right, but is also proactively developing the strategy to manage and mitigate them. Now, this includes everything, actually, right from personal protection measures to secure travel logistics to residential security, and also includes crisis management. If someone is stuck up at a crisis, how do you have a crisis management plan? How do you get that person out of that crisis? That becomes very, very important. And if I may have to put it all together, simply, that risk governance framework is very, very critical in protecting the high net worth individuals. There is a myriad of threats that the industry faces today. It's a very, very volatile world, unfortunately. But it provides the strategic approach to manage, their unique risk profiles and ensuring their personal safety, and also enabling them to go about with their lives peacefully, whether it's their personal or in professional capacity. In addition to the physical threats, which is one aspect of it, the high net worth individuals are also vulnerable to cyber risks, right? And this increasing dependence upon the digital platforms and the rise of cybercrime have made this the personal and the organizational reputation at stake. So I think some of these aspects is definitely impacting it from that perspective as well. Now, when I talk about the cyberspace, it is also about the affluent individuals fall a victim to cybercrimes, right? It then impacts their financial information being susceptible, right? Which is also a risk to these high net worth individuals. So, for example, in 2023, there were instances where affluent individuals fell victim to sophisticated cyber attacks, right? And we read about it every day in the media as well. Now, this a robust risk governance program will not just look at the physical security aspect, would also look at this aspect of cyber security measures, the best practices and the protect to protect these high net worth individuals, right, for such threats. By conducting regular cyber security assessments, we would implementing strong authentication and protocols, providing ongoing cyber awareness training. Now, these can help mitigate the risk of cyber breaches and safeguard the sensitive information. One of the other areas which is worth mentioning over here, Ashwini, is the phase that most of these high net worth individuals face unique risks related to their reputation and privacy. Right. That's one another element which may not be there for some others, but some of them who are very active on the social media or are followed on the social media, there this unique risk to reputation and privacy heightens.
Absolutely.
Right. So with the advent of social media, the instant communication platform, the reputational damage can occur very very rapidly, right, and have very far reaching consequences. So I think those things. So for example, in this year, there were instances where affluent individuals experience a reputational challenge, right, due to the false information or negative publicity, right. A risk governance framework will ensure that we would monitor these online activities, any identity potential threats to reputation, implement strategies to mitigate it. We would work with their marketing team, we would work with their teams to mitigate these risks, and then we have to develop a crisis communication plan. Everyone who is active on the social media at one point of time will experience it. Right. The objective is to create that right crisis communication plan to conduct an online reputation management, right, and proactive media monitoring. Because that way is where we can protect the reputation of high net worth individuals and also protect their privacy. I think that's the most important part, because while they may be available on social media, they may be available everywhere, they are seen, they're followed, but every individual still has a right to have their own privacy. Absolutely. And I think that needs to be protected. But as I said, there are the 3-4 aspects. Some may be only related to travel, some may be related to cyber and travel both, some may be related to the global sanctions and some of those areas that may bring up the risk for them. But if I have to sum it, the risk governance framework is essential in safeguarding the high net worth individuals from a range of risks that they face in today's dynamic environment, by properly identifying, assessing, and mitigating the potential threats to their physical security, cyber security, and reputation. And that way, Pinkerton ensures that their personal safety and well-being via a comprehensive risk governance framework serves as a proactive, strategic approach to protect high net worth individuals. And then that does give them that peace of mind and enhanced security of their personal and professional lives. And I think that is what every high net worth individual is looking forward to.
Right. Again, interesting examples that you've cited here, Rohit.
Yeah.
One question that I had again from the cyber threat front, with AI and more so the generative AI that has come into the picture, we have seen it enabling these threat actors to mimic behaviors.
Yeah.
So is that a concern when you trying to protect the high net?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we do the cyber monitoring or the media monitoring, this is one of the area that we look forward to. Rather, if I can take this a little ahead, Ashwini, the entire field of risk governance is going to witness a significant transformation in the coming future. Right. That is how we see it.
That was my final question to you. In terms of how do you see the space evolving in the future?
Right. So the entire technological advancements that we are seeing, whether it is about AI or machine learning, right, all of this is going to impact, and all of this is changing what conventionally used to be risk, right, or not perceived as a risk is now considered as a risk. So the entire risk governance structure becomes important, because if the organization does not have that risk governance and proactive approach, they may only be focusing on the physical security and forgetting about this aspect which you aptly said, someone creating a dummy, someone using AI, or what we call as a deep voice
Fakes.
and
Yeah.
fakes, deep fakes. I think a lot of that changes. So I believe that the entire risk governance environment is going to change. I think couple of things that will change. One, as you aptly said, is going to be the technological advancements as we are seeing, or the changes, the regulatory changes,
Right.
right? Which is every country is changing the law, right? It is now being rewritten.
Right.
It's getting evolved every time. And also the global trends, wars, and some of the other
Right.
aspects that we spoke about earlier. I think one of the key developments in this integration of the technology part is, now earlier we used to only have machine learning, now we also have artificial intelligence. So this AI and machine learning into risk governance, right? The good part of it, Ashwini, is that these technologies have started shaping up the way we identify risks, and how we assess them and how we manage them. So
Right.
it is for our advantage also that we are able to use it, right? So for example, some of the geographies in the world, we are now able to predict crime that may be there or anticipated in the future,
Okay.
right? And that helps you to take a decision before you would want to invest in that area, right? And it is a proactive approach. So it basically builds up an algorithm which basically works on the historical data and the pattern in that area, and is able to give you a proactive risk approach. So
Okay.
the
This is
crime
functional,
index, it's functional. It's functional in certain geographies where the digital inputs of data is available. We are able to do that, and that's where we've been able to use technology to protect our clients to that extent. But if you look at it, how we look at the future of risk governance is, will further rely on the advancement of the advanced technologies, to enhance risk detection, and then enable into a proactive risk management to facilitate the data driven decision making. So the
Absolutely.
key is going to be the data driven decision making. Further, the risk governance is likely to become more deeply embedded in the organization strategy and decision making processes, right?
Absolutely.
What was there at the surface is now going to get more embedded. Now the board wants to know, right? It is not just one particular CISO's office or a CSO's office or chief security office. It's the entire organization. Now companies are increasingly using this risk appetite as a statement of what is their risk culture, right? And then clarify, define the level of risk that they are willing to accept in pursuit of their business objectives, right? So someone saying, I want a setup and there is a huge business opportunity in an area that could be high risk,
Right.
right? So with this proactive approach, they are able to say, is it worth taking that risk, right? Or should we avoid it, right? Now that is all happening because of a data driven, right? So risk consulting, firms like us, we are going to play a very crucial role in facilitating and development of such robust risk governance frameworks. The expertise and the experience across various industries, then enable us to provide, as you said, tailored business solutions that cater to the unique organization risk, and then guiding these businesses to aligning their risk management strategies to the overall objective. So both have to be aligned. My objective is to make profit, right?
Absolutely.
My objective as a business is to expand. What should be the risk? What are the areas of risk? How much is my risk appetite? That will define how the risk governance will be driven. So the entire risk governance program is now going to be embedded very, very deeply into the organization's framework, and therefore the risk governance framework would be there. And also for the fact that we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes, this rapidly changing business
I
landscape,
know.
Ashwini,
Yes.
the complex global challenges, necessitate that there has to be a consistent adaptation and innovation that effectively mitigate the risks, and protect the interest of the high net worth individuals that we talk about, and that interconnectivity, right, of the global economies, societies, and that calls for that entire
Holistic.
holistic
I know.
and integrated approach of risk governance. And the risk governance framework will have to account not just for the physical security, as we spoke about. It would also have to have the cyber security, but also the geopolitical risk, the regulatory risk, and the supply chain vulnerabilities, right?
Right.
Now, one disruption in one part of the world is disrupting the rest of the world as
Right.
well. Now, we cannot say that one problem in one part of the world is only unique to that part of the world or that region. It is having a cascading impact as well. So, I think, because of these reasons, I clearly foresee that there is a stronger emphasis of proactive and preventive risk management strategies that will come. Like, instead of merely reacting to risk, we as this region, we are very, very reactive.
Absolutely right. I guess in the end you summed it up quite well, Rohit. When you said be proactive in your approach, more so when the chain of events that have happened in the last few years, do really call upon a reflection to be proactive.
Sure.
Right, Rohit. Thank you so much for your
Thank you so
views.
much, Ashwin. It
And
was a pleasure knowing you and meeting you as well. Thanks for having me
absolutely.
today. Thank you.
The pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much. That was Rohit Karnatak, Vice President, Pinkerton, India, speaking with us. Do stay tuned for more such videos on ETH Insights.